There is a weight to the patch, heavy as the iron of the bike beneath you, heavier still than the shame society wants to nail to your colors. Most men look at us, at the Savage Sons MC, and they see the headlines, the fear, the 1% of the road. What they miss is the code, a harsh, unforgiving set of laws forged in exhaust smoke and brotherhood, rules that hold the whole damn world together when the world itself is falling apart. We called the first rule the foundation stone of our existence: never engage the civilians on club business. It meant no random violence, no involving the innocents, no crossing the line that separated our kind of justice from senseless chaos. Rule number 1 was the wall, the thick concrete barrier that kept the law off our backs and, more importantly, kept our souls from completely rotting out. The Savage Sons, chapter in the dusty stretch of Nevada they called the Coyote's Jaw, was led by a man named Ghost. He didn't earn that name by being quiet. He earned it because when he was moving, you didn't see him until the steel was already pressed against your throat. Ghost was the president. He carried the weight of the patch for every soul in the club, and he understood Rule 1 better than anyone. It was his shield and his cage. The desert towns out here are quiet, broken little places where the pavement ends and the real predators begin. The kind that wear suits and drive tinted SUVs, not the kind with leather and grease under their nails. We'd been tracking a small-time operator, a man named Silas Thorne, who drifted into the territory. Thorne wasn't club business. He was low-grade scum, a local loan shark who'd leveraged a handful of small businesses and had started leaning on the families running them. Usually we'd watch, maybe send a quiet, unauthorized message. Thorne crossed the line from a financial pest to something else entirely when he started targeting the widow of a fallen son, a woman named Eleanor, and her boy, Leo. Leo was 10. He had eyes too old for his face, and he carried a baseball glove everywhere, a worn piece of leather that smelled like hope and dirt. Eleanor had borrowed a little cash to keep her diner running. Thorne had inflated the interest until the debt was a mountain. Then he'd offered Eleanor a solution that involved signing over the diner and, implicitly, much, much more. We were staked out at an abandoned factory near the highway, the air thick with stale oil and the metallic tang of dried blood, our kind of office. Ghost was chain-smoking, his eyes fixed on a blurry surveillance photo of Thorne's face. Dozer, our sergeant-at-arms, a man whose silence was louder than a Harley exhaust, was polishing the chrome of his primary weapon. The vice president, Wren, younger, smarter, and with a restless, strategic energy, was going over the logistics. The plan was a clean, surgical strike. Corner Thorne on his nightly run, between his cheap apartment and his gambling den. Retrieve the ownership papers and the debt ledger, and give him a physical lesson in territorial respect. No civilians. Clean in, clean out. Rule 1 secured, but the road never respects your plans. The call came in fragmented, panicked. It wasn't the police, of course. It was Red, one of the newer prospects, who had been running an unauthorized distant watch on Eleanor's home purely out of his own sense of honor, a sense that Ghost had often tried to temper. Red's voice was a ragged edge over the comms. Prez, they got the boy. Thorne. He took him. Says if she goes to the cops, if the diner isn't signed over by dawn, Leo disappears for good. The silence in the factory was a heavy physical thing. Dozer stopped polishing. Wren froze over the map. Ghost slowly crushed the cigarette filter in his gloved hand. The club code had 100 bylaws about territory, about club funds, about loyalty to the patch. But there was an unwritten, fiercely held truth that outweighed every chapter and verse. You do not hurt the children of the territory. They are off limits. They are sacred ground. The local law enforcement was useless, corrupt, or simply too slow to move on a missing child until the paperwork was filed and the trail was cold. The clock was ticking, and the Savage Sons were the only law that mattered in that moment. Wren looked at Ghost, his face pale beneath the beard. Prez, Rule 1. This is involving a civilian. Directly. He didn't have to elaborate. If they moved now, with all their colors showing, with the full force of the club to track down Thorne, the heat from the feds would be astronomical. It would be a declaration of war on the established order, a blatant disregard for the one rule that gave them a sliver of plausible deniability. The club's stability, its entire future, rested on that single, ancient prohibition. Ghost didn't look at Wren. His stare was fixed on the surveillance photo of the kid, Leo, with his worn-out baseball glove. He saw his own long-lost chance at a clean life, a life where the law actually protected the weak. He saw the face of every innocent the system had chewed up and spit out. The Savage Sons were outlaws, yes, criminals by definition, but the why of their existence was rooted in a brutal, archaic desire for order and protection where the blue line failed. The badge on their vests was earned with blood, and the honor beneath it demanded a response the legal system couldn't deliver. Ghost stood up, the leather of his cut creaking with the movement. He walked over to his bike, his old customized diner. The engine looked heavy, dark, and utterly unstoppable. He threw his leg over the seat, his voice low, a gravelly whisper that nonetheless commanded absolute attention. Rule 1 was written to protect us from the outside world, to keep us focused. Today, he paused, looking out the rusted loading dock door toward the endless night and the miles of highway. Today, the outside world brought the fight to the club's doorstep. A child is not a business deal. A child is not a debt. The code of the road demands the innocent be shielded. The law of men failed. We don't. Rule 1 is null and void. He kicked the starter. The engine roared, a deep, defiant thunder that echoed in the silent desert night. We ride. We find Thorn. We bring the boy home. And if anyone stands in the way of that justice, they will learn what a true outlaw is capable of. Wren and Dozer exchanged a glance, a mixture of fear and profound, unshakable loyalty. The line had been crossed. The president had broken the cardinal rule. But in the breaking of it, a different, more ancient, more dangerous code of honor was invoked. The hunt had begun. The sound of 10 massive V-twins igniting in the night was the only siren call this side of the highway would ever hear. The Savage Sons moved like a storm front, fast, relentless, and completely unforgiving. They didn't rely on GPS or digital surveillance. They relied on local knowledge, on the 1,000 eyes of the road, and on the fear their presence instinctively instilled. They knew Thorn's habits, his hiding places, the secret routes he'd used to move his illicit cargo. Red, shaken but focused, had pinpointed a possible location, an old, abandoned mine shack 20 miles off the main interstate, a place where Thorn often retreated to count his dirty cash and conduct his shadier business away from prying eyes. It was remote, unprotected, and perfect for an execution of justice. Ghost led the pack, his focus absolute. The wind was a solid wall against his chest, the roar of the engine a cleansing noise that drowned out the doubts. He felt the weight of the decision, the knowledge that by breaking Rule 1, he had set the club on a path that could lead to destruction. But he also felt the cold, hard certainty that he had chosen the only honorable path. The club was not a criminal enterprise. It was a sanctuary forged in the fires of disrespect and abandonment, and its primary purpose was protection of its own, and when necessary, of the weak within its domain. Leo, the boy, represented that vulnerable boundary. As they approached the mine shack, the dust plume from their approach was a visible declaration. They killed the engines a quarter-mile out, the sudden silence heavy, punctuated only by the clicking of cooling metal. They dismounted and moved on foot, their leather blending into the moonless night. Thorn hadn't anticipated this. He expected the police, the slow, bureaucratic response that gave him days to relocate. He didn't expect the immediate, furious response of the Savage Sons MC. Inside the shack, the dim light revealed Silas Thorn and 2 of his heavily armed thugs, surrounding a terrified Leo, who was tied to a rickety chair, his face stained with tears, the baseball glove resting uselessly on the floor beside him. Dozer took the lead breach, his massive frame kicking the flimsy door inward with a single, deafening impact. The 3 men inside barely had time to register the intrusion before the world exploded. Ghost didn't shout. He didn't threaten. The time for words had passed. The Outlaw Code dictated that violence against the innocent, especially children, was met with an immediate and terminal response. The ensuing confrontation was less a fight and more a swift, brutal correction. Thorne's thugs were professionals, but they were not savage sons. They lacked the coordination, the silent communication, and the absolute righteous fury that fueled Ghost and his men. Wren covered Dozer, their movements economical and deadly, utilizing specialized non-lethal suppressants to quickly neutralize the immediate threat without drawing unnecessary noise or attention. Thorne, however, was a coward, and cowards often turn cruel. Seeing his protection vanish, he lunged for the boy. Ghost moved faster than a man his size should be able to, his boot connecting sharply with Thorne's hip, dropping him in a heap. The immediate objective was clear: secure the child. Wren swiftly cut the ropes binding Leo, sweeping the boy up and shielding him completely from the unfolding violence. Leo, still shaking, clung to Wren's leather cut. Ghost stood over Thorne, who was whimpering, scrambling for a dropped pistol. Ghost kicked the weapon away. "You crossed the line, Silas." Ghost's voice was dangerously quiet, a low, ominous rumble. "You targeted the weak. You targeted a child. The law of men might protect scum like you with appeals and technicalities, but out here, there's only the code of the road," Thorne stammered. "This is club business. This is against your rules, Ghost. You break your own rules for this little—" Ghost knelt down, his eyes like chips of flint. "Rule 1 is about protecting the club from unwanted attention, but the club exists to uphold honor. When a man forgets what honor means, we remind him. This isn't about club business, Thorne. This is about being a man." The ensuing act was swift, focused, and final. Ghost retrieved the ownership papers and the debt ledger from Thorne's pocket, tearing them into shreds and letting the pieces drift onto the dirt floor. The message was delivered not through mere pain, but through a calculated, deliberate act of justice that ensured Thorne would never forget the night he violated the sanctity of the innocent, and that he would never again pose a threat to anyone in the Savage Sons' domain. The application of road justice was complete. Within minutes, the Savage Sons were gone. They left no witnesses, only the shredded papers and the cold, hard consequence of betrayal. They didn't call the police. The law would have seen only a felony. The Savage Sons saw only a rescue. They dropped Leo off 2 miles from Eleanor's diner, far enough to maintain deniability, close enough for the boy to walk the rest of the way. Wren gave Leo a final, gruff pat on the shoulder. "Go home, kid. Stay safe." As the boy ran toward the lights of the diner, clutching his retrieved baseball glove, Ghost watched him disappear. The weight of the world and the club settled back onto his shoulders. He had broken the cardinal rule, jeopardizing everything, but he had saved a child. Back on the open road, the Savage Sons rode into the breaking dawn. The sun was rising, painting the desert sky in fierce, defiant colors, a crimson promise that even outlaws operating in the shadows and governed by their own harsh, unwritten laws could still be the heroes the world desperately needed, applying a raw, necessary justice where the system failed. They were criminals, yes, but they were our criminals, the last bastion of honor on the forgotten highways. They had saved the boy, but the question remained. Now that Rule 1 was broken, what price would the Savage Sons eventually pay for their honor?